Everybody, hold on. Got it. Okay, we're professional sound system operators here. Anyway, welcome back to Seeking Truth. I just finished my paper for last month. It's so weird that with the coronavirus and everything else, my time has actually been split a little bit more. As you know, I used to have at least one or two things to do every single day after work besides kids, and I'd actually put them on my calendar. But now it's just the kids and the eternal. And holy smokes, dad is a jungle gym when you got daughters. I mean, that's just or kids in general. Dad plays with the kids. That's what I do. Maybe I have the ability to separate my body from my mind from the pain of an 8-year-old and a 3-year-old. Just literally be like, Dad, can we ride you as a horse? Anyway, so the subject matter for last month is the community of believers, and I thought I'm gonna share my paper with you guys. I want some feedback if you have any. I would really appreciate it. But what a topic for the C.S. Lewis Institute when we're all in isolation, like when we're all doing the Zoom thing. So I'll read. It's only a page long, right? So we usually read a book. A couple articles, couple sermons. It's the whole thing. I'm in year 2 of it, but it's like getting a doctorate in a year. Like you write a lot, you read a lot, then you get together and you talk. You have a one-on-one discipleship. You have a triad and a quad. Then you have it's an involved program. And this has been the best thing I've ever done with my life, just to increase my faith, my apologetic knowledge, my study of other beliefs as well, besides my own personal pursuits. So I strongly recommend doing something like that with yourself. Cracking open your Bible is good, but you also need peer reviews on what you think to either expand your knowledge or to make sure you're not thinking wrong, because you can think wrong as a believer. This is how you develop the church of self instead of going with people who examine the stuff for like multiple years. That's why it's good to have a pastor, but at the same time you need community, right? You need discussion, you need fellowship. I'm not just talking about coffee, cookies, say thank you, and then sit at a table by yourself, eat them, then sit at a crowd. You know what I mean? There's no communication. There's no sanctification, making yourself better. There's no dialogue that helps you out within and without of the church. So anyway, I'm going to read it starting at the top. I might stop here and there to make certain like annotations where I got the stuff and talk about what's going on in my life as well. I hope you guys are enjoying your time by yourselves. I recommend, this is the time where your self-discipline will come to the forefront. You'll see how, you have all this time in the world now. What are you using it for? This is when your solitary pursuits kind of they have a higher level of influence in your life, and your habits kind of come to more of a forefront. Anyway, start at the top. What an amazing time we have before us, my brothers and sisters. We studied community, and during this season, panic and virus spread to place us in isolation. Yet we still must work essential functions to keep the lifeblood of the country running, so we still have outlets to gather. I'm talking about the workforce. My work personally, they just keep going. They're not. We sell like bath and shampoo and stuff like that, so. We're not shutting down, but at the same time, you can get you can get everything from there. So it's great. It's like a cheaper version of Walmart. But anyway, there are certainly at least 2 sides to where one resides: the strengthening from within and the adventure without. From the mouth of God comes the declarative: "It is not good for man to be alone," and it creates woman, and by her other men. For we can only delight in one another to a certain point, lest we raise up someone else as deity. We can both delight in the same truth and experience, and that method of focus and attention bonds us closer as a people than a direct examination of one another. Shared stories, experiences, tragedies, and celebrations knit people together in a way, like 2 people weeping while singing the same song. I was almost doing this last night, but I was by myself singing the song Lateralis by Tool. All right, there's the guy say it's worthy of thought and listening to. Very good song. I know it's secular, it's definitely not Christian. But it's, he's talking about riding the spiral, the Fibonacci sequence, I think is what he uses in his music for the most part. The guy was raised crazy. It's himself is a very interesting study. I'm going to go read his book eventually when I have some time to do so. But that makes sense, right? It is not good for man to be alone. But if you sit there, and this is where we have different varieties of love. If you sit there and delight in one another like you should with your mate, that's good to a point. But if you only have that be your focal point, if that is the highest tier of something you meditate on, that becomes an obsession. And then you start to deify a person, but you know what a person is between you and the other person. You're both human. So deifying a human is deifying yourself, but you know you're not absolute. So that fails, and you know this is the backdrop. This is, again, when you get to the point of mentorship, it's okay to glean wisdom and have ultimate respect for somebody who's gone before and walked the journey that you would like to walk. But at the same time, if you put them as the ultimate, like, do or do not judge by this person and this person only, then that's almost cultish. And that's not what God desires. How amazing that our busy culture is forced to slow down as God uses evil for his good. And this is roughly a quote from C.S. Lewis. There's a crowd of busybodies whose life is devoted to destroying solitude wherever it still exists. We live in a world starved for solitude, silence, and privacy, therefore starved for meditation and true friendship. You may be religious when you're alone, and I'll make sure you're never alone. That's taken from two of his sermons in the book The Weight of Glory. Even at this moment, the internet and different media outlets offer us so many... Hold on a second. Real-time correction here, boys. Offer us so many choices to busy our time with. We wake up looking at the screen of our phone, turn on music while making breakfast, read the paper, plug in headphones while doing work around the house, make sure we have entertainment on our radios in the cars we travel. I asked a coworker of mine when was the last time she spent 10 minutes in silence thinking she couldn't come up with an answer. This is very true in our world. Like, even if you're doing something, you want to busy your mind with something else. Myself and my wife both self-discipline ourselves. Self-discipline is so amazing. But and I had to call her out and she had to call me out on it. Because we both agree it's important. We're watching a movie with our kids. It's a kids movie. Why do we have our phones out? Doing other things on our phones. Why aren't we sharing the experience with our kids? Right? So when they say something, we have no idea what they're talking about. Look at that, mommy. Hold on. I missed it. As if watching the movie and experiencing something with them is a waste of time because you would rather be doing something else, which is more important. I mean, you have to think about these things as you do them. Put the phone away, First couple minutes of your day, who has the first word of your day? Is it the internet? Is your emails? How many messages did I get while I was sleeping? I might have missed something. No, you should. It would be good to let silence. First thing I do every day, I take this from George Mueller's. I read the Bible. Let me back up. I wake up, go downstairs, get myself a cup of coffee, come back up to my study, and I read the Bible. Per George Mueller, he used to pray every day, but he spent the first 20 minutes just wandering around in his mind. It really helps if you have scripture to focus yourself onto and let that be the template of your thought life. You want something to guide you rather than the miasma and the white noise inside your brain. Sometimes that gets you in trouble. You start thinking of things you don't want to think. Like, where did that come from? That's weird. So it's good to have God have the first word in your life. It really is. Whatever you throw at yourself first thing, that's really sets a lot of the precedent for your day. We long for connection, especially during this time. It's tiring to lose one Saturday afternoon, but to have them free because you don't matter is much worse. This is a longing we all cannot deny. But what are we doing to focus on our break from the conformity of the world? What is our local church doing? When studying the martial arts world, one finds the natural inclination of the physical body to collapse, a built-in self-defense method that brings one into a fetal position to protect its vital parts while incapacitated or injured. Is our church Is our church turning inward, attempting to become self-sufficient and build a utopian fantasy on earth? Or are we engaged in combat and equipping Christ-following soldiers with apologetics they need to fight with truth against the enemy? We must be careful not to distance ourselves so far from the world that it cannot feel our salt. Oh my gosh, I told this was so it cannot feel. Let me try this again. Taste our salt. Probably do a little bit more proofreading before I just put this out in video or see our light. Being salt and light of the world. This is something you have to self-examine with your church. I think my church, the only reason we've been blessed, I was there when they only had 2 services. Now they have 2 campuses, and they do I think, I don't want to add them all together, but 3 in the main campus, and then 2 it's on site, and then 2 in the off-site campus on the other side of the county. But the only reason I believe is because I think the figures were last time we spent like $600,000 on missions and supporting missionary troops and doing things for the community. Like our outworking for our church is amazing. I can never take that away. And you have to be like that. You have to put yourself into the world. If you're not, you're just building a club. There's no point in that. The point is to witness and to put yourself out there, to show people what a good life is. And we are to be known by our love for one another. We're not to be known by our doctrine. We are, sort of. We're not to be known by the code we live by, but by our love for one another. Because a natural, honest outworking of a Christian life should be something that is seen and something that preserves salt and light of the earth. Anyway. Even as we build ourselves within, walk with God, encourage without. The danger of piousness and the solitude of sin stand on either ends of the believing spectrum, and use the world to strengthen themselves. Like pouring oil on fire, the corporate church has one foot in the world. It knows and understands this, but this does not make it immune to the same struggles we all face in the marketplace. For a pious church, has no room for sinners. The people at the top had better be perfect, as they must be saintly. Heaven forbid they make a mistake and require forgiveness during their journey, for that would tarnish the building's or denomination's status. Things get flipped on their head when we think corporation is more valuable than the people within. People can be shut out of a church due to one sin. We replay the world's judgment on man over and over. The other danger with this is dealing with sin itself. Sin desires to be alone, for when you examine it, it falls apart and flees the light of truth. Those in the pious church may not ever admit sin, leading to a lack of confession and self-condemnation. All right, my mom actually had an issue with this too, where someone in the church that she's at now found out about a sin she did 30 years ago and immediately became suspicious of her because it's more of a pious church. I don't want to get into the denominations of all that stuff, but it's like everybody has this like prestige and this appearance of success, wealth, saintliness. And because you are the weaker one, like you get targeted. Are you okay? How you doing? We don't take things. Be careful. What are you doing over there? You get examined almost like you're the they have chickens, right? The weakest chicken gets picked on, or the bully system, right? It's pretty natural. I think we all kind of understand that. At least I think so. Anyway, all this talk is well and good. It is good to examine the issues we have in the world and within, so that we know what to look for and what not to do. This is how we glean from wisdom and experience. But how do we make this better? Even my 3-year-old child can point out problems, and our politicians are excellent at doing just that and only that at times. As if pointing out problems gives you power. But with all these things against us, what exists that is for us? The answer is always within arm's reach in this country. Bibles flourish and abound in America, yet the dust on them continues to thicken, as if people cannot believe the truth and gift of salvation could be that easy. We as people, in general, are knit together with our purpose, to toil and work hard, but we must not forget that what came before our toil. Our God saying, "Let there be," and it is good. Focusing on this word binds us together. I can see the political side of things, a certain party wishing the economy would fail just to see the president not get reelected. What a cost. But more Bibles are being opened and questions are being asked. What does corona or anything do to death? Absolutely nothing. Focusing on the eternal, transcendent voice that sustains everything exists beyond death and binds us together as friends and community greater than anything the world has to offer. And that's it right there. The climax, or the ultimate hierarchy of this thing. Right? One of the common apologetic things I say to everybody before I even know what their worldview is. By the way, you should examine people if you desire. My calling in life, at least I think it is, unless God leads me elsewhere, is individual conversation. Just like in the martial arts world, You fight a person, you don't fight a style. Every person is different. Now, martial art, physical fighting is a little bit different. It's not like we go around seeking to beat people up. But when you're doing spiritual warfare and you need a little bit of head knowledge with the truth in general, because apologetics, all it does is get rid of the lie. Throw stuff away that's just not true. Because so much non-truth is just out there. And when you examine it, just like sin, it just evaporates. Non-truth goes away. And then people, the other fault of it, because hate and mockery are the only two main weapons of the enemy. What they'll do is they'll try to start, you have the argument when they start to redefine language in order to think that that'll just change reality. That's, for example, is this, what is this thing here? It's my wife drew a picture. Little daffodils. You say it like, is that orange? Yes, but it's orange for you, but not for me. How do I know you see the same orange? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We can actually test that with science. Now the wavelengths that bounce off this light is orange. Yeah, but maybe you see orange different. I'm like, no, we don't. We all see things roughly this. Okay, you know what I mean? But regardless of the semantics of the thing, you know what I'm talking about. You know this is orange. Why are we redefining language? Why are we saying that's different for you and for me when we both know what it is? That's when people are trying to dodge the question, because that just leads you to a spiral outwards instead of examining truth inside the discussion. But anyway, I digress. I like to talk with people individually about their things. So one of the first things I'd say to somebody is, how do you define yourself? What is your first definition of yourself? Are you Vanessa the wife, Vanessa the manager, Vanessa the mother? What is your first one? And you got to be, then you have to examine further than that, because your first definition of yourself, because we all wear many hats in our lives, does it bind you to death? Anything in this life is guaranteed to corrode and fail. If you bind yourself by your martial arts strength, I know my bones will eventually fade away. This body is not eternal. We are all dying. It's 100%. If you never heard about this, there you go. But if you bind yourself, by myself, by my beauty, by my prestige, by my commanding voice, my voice will eventually fade. My lungs will no longer hold air. Everything, even you can even go to the heat death of the universe. Everything will eventually go away. Except something that is beyond death. If you bind yourself to something outside of this life, you are on par with the eternal. Now that could be a little scary, right? Because then you have to go from, where do you go from there to theism, right? Where do you go to there? And then every apologetic should lead to or from the cross. So then you go to but that's when the apologetic side comes in. You have to bind yourself to something that's beyond death in order to have even a positive outlook on life, man. Because otherwise it's just desperate anxiety. This is the atheistic conundrum, right? We all know basic math and algebra. So death is zero. Nothingness is zero. Anything times zero is still zero. So you take the meaninglessness before, the meaninglessness after, and anything in between, when associated with that and put right next to it in the algebraic formula, equals zero. Meaninglessness is just at the top of the spectrum. When it comes to not recognizing the transcendent, you get a certain anxiety out of all that. Sure, you are free for a time, but you know that time will end. It's temporary. As if we know that time exists. We do know this. Time exists beyond ourselves, so we have to keep going with our thinking. Right? We know the eternal exists, but we also have to be careful that just because we know the problem doesn't mean we have power over it. Something else has to enter inside that has power over that, and that is God, and that is Christ. Entering into our world, speaking as we speak, becoming a person, a character, not just a couple words. Because people are people and they're individuals. God put an individual on earth to give us a template of how to live, of how to, the ideas that Jesus put on here, they just flip the world on its head. Why would you care about your neighbor in a Roman society? I was reading about one of the books we were assigned to. I forget what it is, and I'm so sorry. But there's a theory because they used to abort children like crazy in the Roman Empire. So the theory is because they did this, especially females, who just like they just throw them into the elements. There, sorry, you're dead. That would be their version of aborting, besides the other barbaric methods. So if they did that, and the theory is that because so many did that, but the Christians did not, they would try to save the kids. And so the Christians would have like an oversurplus of children, especially female. In order for a Roman citizen to become married, they would more often than not convert to Christianity. So it was really, I just think that's really neat. God uses evil for his good. We try to save some of the kids. Therefore, the Christian society is more females. And like it's really neat how that kind of permeated. Now you can really dive into that and dissect it if you want. But I just thought it was a really neat concept that God used that point of us saving lives to spread his word, which is really cool. So anyway, but the community of believers, that topic itself is very interesting. There's so many denominations of Christianity itself when we are to be unified. When you walk into your building, or when you walk into your job, or when you walk into your school, are you saying, Christ, I want you to be in me? Or if you're a skeptic, are you asking, what kind of evidence will I see today? What kind of worldview do I want to back up and espouse today? Because you have to examine that based on truth and identity. And whatever you're putting yourself on, is that identifying you with death, with nothingness, devaluing of your personhood? When death comes for you, are you going to be doing what you should do as a human? Working the land, marrying, having kids, enjoying some games, using this world that God said was good when he initially made it before the fall? Or are you going to be crowding in a corner, trying to hold on to your life that you can't keep? We all know we can't keep it. So buying like 3 billion truckloads of toilet paper and then sitting in a corner and pooping all day, I guess that's what goes on. I'm not sure. I bought a 24-pack right before this crisis came in. We are not like even halfway done with it, and I have a household of 4 that are staying home. So I'm very curious, like how... I don't understand people. I really just don't. I had to bring an extra roll of toilet paper to my mom because they live by themselves in like the woods, and they had no idea this crap was going on. They went to buy toilet paper past like 2 weeks, and there was just none there. They're like, I don't understand. I'm like, I know. So I brought them like 2 extra rolls of toilet paper. It's funny. Well, anyway, thanks for giving me a hearing. Happy Sunday. It is Easter Sunday. This is when our Lord has risen. Overcoming death. There's the evidence for... I was thinking about just doing an evidence thing as a talk, but the evidence out there for Christ being... I'll just touch on that briefly. Of the resurrection is just amazing. But the one that gets me, everybody will die for something that's true. They'll die. You'll even die for something you think is true. But the disciples, they had to know it was a lie. No one would die for something they didn't know is a lie. If your life is why would you do this? This makes no sense in any kind of paradigm unless they knew it was true. Because they would have to be the people that came up with it. So if they came up with it, if it's just this big fictitious thing that's supposed to control the world, why would they all go die? Not only die, but die alone, all over the place. Christians are meant to be in the thick of foes. We strengthen ourselves in our self-discipline, and then we go out, and we talk, and we discuss, and we dialogue. The danger is when people want to destroy discussion. They want to destroy truth. They want to separate you with the identity politics. You are this, and I can tell by your tone. That's not a rational argument. You must be led by your head, not your heart. Your heart undergirds your passion for the truth. You can't let your reason try to justify your reaction. That's like an infinite wrong itself. Truth has to go first. So anyway, that's what gets me about the resurrection. I can't. When I look at history and the shallowness and carnality of man, and then suddenly Jesus happens. There's only one way that would be true. Like, there's only one way that it would be as it is, and his word is right within arm's reach of everybody. How does that work? We try to kick him out of schools, and we still have people. Even North Korea, they have a church. China, they have a church. I'm not talking about buildings, a building. I'm talking about the people that gather and talk about this stuff and strengthen each other, understand there's something more outside of themselves. That there is Christians, when they were thrown at the Colosseum, were dying with smiles on their faces, even though they were being torn apart by lions. They were not identifying themselves by death. They got to go see their Lord. That stuff is very strengthening to me. Heaven forbid that ever happens to me or my family. But that's when you understand when Christ said you must hate your brother or your sister compared to me. You must love me. Your identity has to be there first. It has to. Everything else loses meaning if it's not. It is good to love your kids and your wife and protect them. It's your responsibility. But if you do not have love for God and Christ first, you're loving something. You're loving a shadow. You're loving something you can never keep. So, anyway, God be with you guys. I thank you very much for listening, giving me a hearing. Like, subscribe if you enjoy these. I try to do one every Sunday. I might do more maybe. But I'll see you guys later. Take care.